a second, but I found out about him on Tucker. So this is so cool to have a
Yes,
guest on here that was on Tucker.
he was on Tucker Carlson. That's right.
Yeah.
So I met Mason last year at Amfest, and he was trying to like grow his account. I think he had like 10,000 followers at the time, or maybe 20,000.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, dude, like he like keep going, blah blah blah. And then like I see him at a couple of other events, and he's like dominating now. And I think
Guys,
last
so he's stuck on the screen on my screen. Oh, there he is. He's
I'm
back.
getting shadow banned, guys.
That's
They are censoring.
tell us.
They are censoring hard today, guys, because of the Epstein stuff.
yeah.
Like, they're on it. They're on it.
Yeah. That's a crazy thing. And you go through all the sites to try to find who's on the list, and they just refuse to put out the names on the list. Like, just tell me who was there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. By the way, guys, I'm streaming from the Breakaway account, not my regular account. I just realized that now. So, if you're following me from the Breakaway account, and this is us. This is Gentry. This is David. This is myself, and we have an incredible guest on. So, sorry, you were saying what you do it for before you got cut off.
Yes. So I climb skyscrapers, and we use this sort of political stunt to hijack the media, right? And you go on TV and we talk about abortion, and it's every building we climb, we pick a woman in crisis pregnancy, and we try to help her out. We ask her, what will it take to not have this abortion? And usually it is financial. Like, a lot of these women, they're like 6 months pregnant, and then their boyfriend leaves them or something, and they don't know how they're going to pay the rent. So we give them job counseling, and we help them out with their rent, and just try to save the baby's life.
That's incredible, man. Where did you get this idea from? I mean, clearly you're a great climber, but what was the catalyst to say, you know what, I want to do this, and I don't care what anyone says, I'm going to do it?
Well, the sort of idea of climbing skyscrapers I stole. There's this guy named Alain Robert. He's sort of my hero, and it's really cool because we're friends now, and he'll call me up all the time in the middle of the night because he lives down in Bali. It'll be midnight, and I'll get a call from Alain, and he's like, "How are you doing, Mason?" He's this French guy, right? It's hilarious. But I saw what he did in 2008, and he had worked with Greenpeace to climb the New York Times building and hang up all these banners to protest climate change. And I was like, well, wouldn't that be cool if we had something like that for a conservative Christian cause, and specifically life? And so I sat on the idea for a long time until finally I was scrolling on the internet one day, came across these photos of these babies. Gentry knows my friend AJ, and AJ was the person who had sort of spread these photos out. But some friends of ours was outside of a clinic in DC, and this medical waste truck driver pulls up, and this guy, he doesn't know where he is. He picks up medical waste from plastic surgery clinics, from pediatricians' offices. And so they asked him if they could take one of the boxes home. And he's like, why do you want this box? Because he's thinking there's needles or blood or whatever is in there. It's useless stuff. And they tell him, like, look it, dude, you're at an abortion clinic, and inside that box is a bunch of dead babies. And they sort of just pulled on this guy's heartstrings, and he said to him, look, I give them to you, you take them, whatever happens, happens. And so they took these boxes home and opened them up, and there were 5 fully grown, almost 9-month-old children, pulled to shreds, arms ripped off. There's one baby, it looks like it's sawed off at the hip. And so I'd seen these photos online, and I thought to myself, if I do this, my friends are going to be mad at me. My girlfriend's probably going to break up with me. What kind of man am I if that's what keeps me from speaking out for these babies? Because here they are in front of me. They're dead. This baby, literally a crushed skull and one eye open. And here I am worried about what my friends will think.
Yep.
So I couldn't think of anything else. I was just like, I have to do this. I have to do this. And I remember sitting in class, in finance class, not remembering what the teacher had talked about for the whole class. It was like
Wow.
Charlie Brown, like blah, 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 blah,
It's just
blah.
in your mind, yeah.
Yeah. And so I decided to sort of take that leap, and I raised a small amount of money to fly out to all these cities and climb these buildings. And in hindsight, because I was thinking like a climber. Climbers, we like to do what's called link ups. So it's like, how many mountains can we climb in the shortest amount of time? And like my buddy Brad, who kind of taught me everything I know, Brad Gobright, he had done, it's called the Yosemite Triple Crown. And so it's El Cap, Half Dome, and Mount Watkins all in a day in under 24 hours. And it's insane. I can't even comprehend it, honestly. I've done Half Dome, I've done El Cap, and it's just, you know, most people take 3 days per mountain.
That's because each mountain is what, like, it's like 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours?
No, like 3 days. Like literally you're sleeping on a cot on the side of the mountain, hanging 3,000 feet up underneath you. But once you learn how to climb fast, you try to do everything in a day so that you can sleep in your own bed or get home to the bar. That's kind of the goal. But here I am, and I'm thinking like a climber, and I'm like, how many buildings can I climb in this short amount of time? So I'd raised the money, and I bought all my plane tickets months in advance, and I wanted to go climb the Salesforce Tower. In the morning, I woke up to fly to San Francisco. Just by God's providence, it happened to be the morning that the Dobbs draft was released. I couldn't have planned it. It was just this craziest timing, and I'm really worried that people are going to start to think I'm a compulsive liar, because there's just too many things that like have gone together with Providence. But you can Google it. It was like literally like the day of. But from there, like I remember I got to the top, and I had planned for an extra day in San Francisco because I wasn't sure how long they were going to hold me in jail. I was really worried about that. So I planned to be in San Francisco for an extra day, and I got to the top of the Salesforce, and they arrested me and everything, and I was in jail for maybe an hour and a half. Like, you can get away with murder there. They let me right out, and they had said to me, "Hey, dude, call an Uber to go back to your hotel. Can you just walk around the block so they don't know like where they're picking up from?" Because they were worried about like the optics. Being picked up, outside their jail. So as soon as they let me out, I was like a dog off of his leash, and changed our tickets to fly out of San Francisco straight to New York. And I was trying to get the New York Times building within 24 hours and climb that, but we didn't quite make it. It was a little over 48 because I was tired and tried to sleep. And but that was an interesting one too. Well, when I climbed that one.
And the thing is, for anyone listening, you do it without ropes.
Yeah.
I didn't have to mention that part. You literally do it without ropes. So the amount of concentration that you have to have is just absolutely insane. I've seen some of Alex Honnold's things and the amount of concentration that he has. And I saw one of your videos where they're trying to break this panel to pull you in, and you're like, "Hey, don't do that, man. You're gonna make me fall." And they're like, they were saying like, "We're not gonna let you get to the top." And you're like, "It's way safer if I just go to the top." That was scary.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is remain calm in those situations. I say there's two kinds of danger. There's perceived danger and actual danger, right? Perceived danger is this: you're tied into a rope, and you could be hanging off of a 3,000-foot cliff, or you could be 20 feet off the ground, and you're scared of something that's not actually a threat, right? A lot of people, they scared of elevators or going on planes, and that's perceived danger. And then you have actual danger, which is like have no rope on, and you're on the side of a building. But the funny thing is the feeling of fear is the same, whether it's perceived or actual. And the side effects of fear are the same as well, because in both scenarios, it doesn't do you any good. If you're in perceived danger, it's going to slow you down. And if you're in actual danger, you should probably just go down. But if you can't, fear is only going to hold you back. So you got to learn how to shut it off. And that takes a lot of practice. And I get asked a lot, like, what's going through your mind while you're climbing? And it's funny because, like, nothing's going through my mind. I'm trying to shut my brain off as much as possible. Sometimes I'll sing little songs. I'll try to distract myself. One of the things that really calms me down is like the dopamine from your phone. So I get a lot of comments on my YouTube videos and everything. I'll like be sitting there at a rest and I'll pull out my phone, and they think it's because I'm just casual, but like your phone kind of relaxes you in a way. And so, I might go on there and just scroll, just doom scroll. Is that what they call it? Or I might FaceTime a friend or something, and it just kind of relaxes you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I was gonna ask you, Mason, what goes through your mind, but you kind of answered that just now. So the question I always think about is the segment I saw of you on Tucker Carlson, you ended up getting arrested. So what is your encounter with the cops like? And when they find out the mission behind this, it seems like cops would be understandable and relatable. So what is that interaction like?
It really depends. There's always that guy who's just, out to get you and wants to make a statement. But for the most part, they think it's cool. And so usually when I get to the top, there's some high fives. And there's always that guy who can't, like how stoked he is.
Yeah.
So he'll throw you in the car all angry for the cameras. But like in Oklahoma, they were the nicest out of all of them. I got to the top, and a police officer came up to me and he said, "Dude, I'm not allowed to say this, but we are all really impressed that you climbed this building. But we found out why you're doing it, and we're even more impressed now."
Wow.
They took me to their station, and they had me like take photos with them and sign some autographs, and they brought me coffee. Even
They gave you the king's welcome.
Oh,
So
yeah, it was that bad.
That's good to hear that you're having, positive interactions with the law enforcement while you're doing it, because your mission is incredible.
You know what I like about it is that people tell the story. So everyone who's watching, everyone who watches the news, they tell that story, and they probably feel like, look at what that guy is doing for it. Why am I not doing anything? And they probably get very introspective and say, and probably honestly probably activates them, man, which is incredible because they're touching people's lives immensely that way.
Yeah, the contrast with what I do is really the fact that what I do is dangerous and I could die, right? Like that is a possibility that could happen. But when you put your money where your mouth is and you say, look at, like, I'm a Christian. I was promised eternal life. You look at the book of Acts, right? The apostles, all of them but one had died to share the gospel. This was the example that was set forth to us. And if we believe the words we say, if we believe in eternal life, that Jesus is our Savior, then we have nothing to be scared of at all. Like not even death can stop us, because we have this thing that's greater than what's here on earth. So it's like, what's the big deal, right? Like people, they think it's so crazy, but I'm like, no, it's really not. If you believe, to you of all people, it shouldn't be crazy. You're a Christian, right? And that's really, I think, the amazing part about what I do is I can challenge people on their faith and sort of get them to believe the words they say.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Really Mason, whenever you post on Instagram, I always have like a little sigh of relief because I'm like, oh, he posted, like he's still alive. Like I'm thankful that no, seriously, like as it happened. What do you actually get arrested for? Like I've always been curious about that.
Oh yeah.
What's the actual like thing they put on the like whatever paperwork they do?
Yeah. So when I started doing this, like getting arrested was my biggest fear actually of everything. Like the climbing part, I was like, I got this, right? Like this is no problem. That's what I do. But it was the jail thing, because I knew that when you start getting a criminal record, it's like burning the boats behind you, like burning the ships. I forget which Spanish explorer it was. They came to America, and he knew Cortez. He knew his men would get homesick and want to turn back. So to sort of encourage his men to continue fighting and exploring the New World, he literally burned the boats. So there was no way to get home.
You know what's crazy is my uncle, he's a pastor in Kansas City. Gentry knows about him. He literally has a book out. It's called Burn Your Ships. So it's crazy that you just mentioned that right now. What an interesting, yeah.
And so I knew that when I got arrested, I'm like, that's it. You Google my name, it's over, right? Like, there's no way I can get a job with anybody who doesn't agree with me. They're not going to want to work with me. But again, it was this strength from reading the Bible and reading God's word, and the example that was set for us in the book of Acts. I get a lot of criticism from pastors and Christians all alike, and they always quote Romans 13. And I questioned them, like, do you know where Romans 13 was written? Written in a jail cell, which is the funniest thing. But
Wow.
broke me of that fear of going to jail was Oklahoma. After they took me out to the station, they threw me in the holding cell with all of the other criminals, and it was dirty. There was feces on the ground. There was bugs everywhere. It was freezing cold. They failed all their health codes. It was the grossest jail I've ever been to this day. And again, the book of Acts, like Paul used this prison system to share the gospel with everyone he met. And so I was like, well, maybe I can give it a shot. And, it's so funny because looking back on what I said, I don't think I did that great of a job. And I was very vague and trying to just, I don't know, throw it out there, right? And I was worried when I got there. I was like, how do I break the ice of these people? But as soon as they found out what I did, all they wanted to do was talk to me. And that's sort of like the climbing is the tool that gets people to listen, and it works in the jail cell too, thankfully. And I just went in there. I started telling them about Jesus, started telling them why I climbed the buildings, why I'm pro-life and everything like that. And they let me out 5 or 6 hours. And a couple weeks had gone by, and I actually got sepsis while I was there. It's so dirty, I almost died.
Oh.
I had like 2 hours to live. It was insane. That red line was spreading from my arm into my heart to full-blown blood poisoning.
Wow.
But I was sitting in bed all sick with that, and I got a call from the CEO of Let Them Live, and he said, dude, you're never going to believe this, but a woman just called into our charity and said that her boyfriend met you in Oklahoma County Jail, and they want to cancel their abortion. And
no way, dude.
Yeah. And again, like, there's a lot of stories I have that just seem too good to be true, but it's when you start following God's word and you start fighting for the Lord, these just, it's God's providence. You start to feel it and you start to see it. But that whole experience broke me of this fear of jail. After that, I was like, throw me in there. I don't care.
That's awesome.
Imagine the providence that guy had to have had to get thrown in jail. You get thrown in jail at the same time. You decide, well, I'm here. I'm not going to deviate from my mission just because I'm not climbing. My mission's still the same. You start talking to people about it. He ends up not having an abortion, and that is insane, man. Like, that is. Anyone listening is probably like.
Yeah, it's kind of a place to be. I'll say that. But once you learn how to talk to these guys, and the thing is as long as you're respectful and able to talk to these guys, they'll treat you well. They won't mess with you. And like I do not recommend going to jail for other reason than doing the Lord's work. But when you do go, they know why you're in there, and they're not going to treat you poorly. There's really this respect that the other people have for you while you're in there. It's not that bad.
Mason, I have a question. Did you ever imagine when you were planning to do this that you'd end up, in this situation, really, where you're helping individuals because you quote unquote committed a crime, and here you are, extending the mission that you're doing to the jail cell, literally.
Yeah, that was sort of the intention, was to help people when I was doing it. That was like the goal. It was to go out and save babies and save souls. What I didn't really understand at the time was how humbling of an experience it would be. When you get to meet these people that you're helping, and you get to hold a baby that you've saved from abortion, there's nothing else. Your whole life is changed forever after that. I mean, I was at a gala in DC. They always, like, these pro-life orgs, they have these fancy fundraisers, and you get in your your suit and tie and your tuxedo, and you go in there, and they've got good wine, and I always sneak in, which is but I was at one. Nathan, the CEO of Let Them Live, comes in and he hands me this baby. And I didn't know who she was, but here I am holding her, and she takes her whole hand and puts it around my finger like that, the way babies do. And then they told me that, Mason, that's a baby that you saved from abortion. And if you didn't raise money for her mother, that arm that's around your finger would have been ripped off. And you're sitting there and you're holding this baby, and words can't describe the way you feel in that moment. And it's sort of like this assurance of what you're doing is working, and it's for the better, and you're doing God's work. But also there's a little bit of guilt too, if I'm being honest, because you start to question, like, okay, what can I do more? Because you're like, I don't deserve this.
Wow.
Like, what else can I do?
That's incredible. We do have some questions that I want to get to. And for anyone listening, we are going to sign off in a few minutes here, and then we're going to go film a formal podcast for this that will be out on our channel, social channels, breakaway_USA. So if you want to hear more of this conversation, which, I mean, you definitely should, you can follow us, or you can just go Breakaway USA on any podcast network. The link's in our bio. It's there. I can't wait for it. So there's 3 questions. One, and I know we're kind of pressed for time, but one is, what is your hardest climb? And 2, how are you not in jail for climbing, which I think you kind of shared. And someone asked, how long have you been climbing, and what age did you start? So hardest climb, and how long have you been climbing?
Yes. So the hardest climb on buildings is by far the Chase Tower in Phoenix, at least for me, I should say.
Wow.
I mean, the guy, Alain Robert, the guy who I stole the idea from, he's one of the best climbers in the world. So some stuff I don't even think about touching that he's done. That one, the Chase Tower, was the shortest one I've climbed to, which is funny because when we were walking up to the base of it, I was talking crap to my buddies, and I was like 15 minutes, up and down. And I really, in my head, had underestimated it. And beforehand, I questioned whether or not to even do it because I thought it was going to be so easy. The year before, a few months before, it was last year, I had scoped it out, and I climbed maybe like 30 feet of it in my dress shoes. And then I was thinking this is going to be easy, but everything after 30 feet is really strenuous. It's easy for 30 feet, but then once your muscles are tired, it gets hard. So near the top, my knees were shaking, my arms were trembling, and you just had to shut your brain off. And that baby I held at the gala, baby Ayla, she was actually at the base of the building watching me climb. And so about halfway up, climbing I'm stemming. So I have my left arm and my left foot on one side, and then my right arm and my right foot on the other side, just pushing counter pressure, sort of shimmying up these 2 walls. And at one point, the textured concrete had broken out under my feet, and I just tried to stay relaxed, and I climbed back up to this little rest I had, and I was thinking, like, oh, maybe like I should go down, but it sounds cheesy, but I literally thought of that baby who was at the base, and I was like, you know, if we could save another baby like that, then, you know, that's what we have to do. It is our duty. It is our responsibility as men of Christ to do whatever it takes to save these children at any cost to ourselves. As far as how I'm not in jail, that is funny. So I don't know when I started this, but I kind of found a legal loophole. So there's no law that says you can't climb skyscrapers, believe it or not. So I get charged with trespassing. But the way trespassing works is they have to come out and trespass you. And they can't really do that when you're 500 feet up a building. So they just have to wait till you get to the top, at which point you get 15 minutes to leave. And, you know, I never get the 15 minutes. They take that away from me, which is kind of unfortunate. You know? So all my arrests, except for one, which I'm having to work around, my lawyers are working, would be constituted as an illegal arrest, technically. But yeah, it's a legal loophole, and thankfully I have really good lawyers who are all volunteers. I've never had to pay any money for my lawyers. Life Legal is a good organization. They help me out a lot, as well as the Thomas More Society. They're helping me with my lawsuit in Chicago right now.
Wow.
But yeah, we've got a lot of court. I'm thinking about starting my own law firm when I'm done. I don't know.
There you go.
You should.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
awesome. Yeah, that's incredible. Well, Instagram, we'd like to thank you for your time and donating your precious time to us on this beautiful evening that the Epstein listings are out, and there's a lot of fires burning in Washington, D.C. and in Hollywood and around the world because we got to bring down these pedophiles. We are going to continue this talk on the podcast. So if you'd like to check that one out, it'll be out in a few days. You can simply go to the Breakaway USA profile, add us, or there's links in the bio. And we hope that you have a great night. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mason. You're really, really inspirational. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me on, man.
You're a stud, dude.
Yeah.
Don't forget to follow Mason, by the way. Follow the Pro Life Spiderman.
Oh,
Everyone's got to follow him.
And go donate at Let Them Live